as part of the Nigeria policing programme, and that the UK government has been involved in training of members of SARS, despite that happening during a time when there were ongoing public, well-known allegations of extrajudicial executions, extortion, torture and rape by this unit. And I'm sorry to say, Mr Gray, but this is, while shocking, it is unfortunately not an entirely unexpected revelation to me. And it's also not surprising, and I have the review of the programme here, Mr Gray, that this was a programme led by the Foreign Office rather than DFID. Of course, UK support for security and justice reform in countries around the world can have positive impacts. But what's absolutely clear to me is that in a growing number of cases, it is not clear what impact we are having, or whether in the worst cases we are actually supporting agencies who have a role in committing atrocities or human rights violations. This is just one example. Whether it's this example or the ongoing supplying of arms to the Saudi Arabian government for use in the Yemen crisis, or the training of the Special Investigations Unit in Bahrain, which has also been complicit in the torture of prisoners, and of course they use the death penalty. The government is having to repeatedly have to come and justify its involvement with organisations and institutions that appear to breach our very own standards, let alone international law and human rights. So can the Minister tell me whether she has considered suspending support and training for such programmes for Nigerian security, military and justice institutions until she is absolutely satisfied that they are not supporting individuals and organisations who have been implicated in these atrocities? And will the government commit to a review of the effectiveness of OSJA projects? I was extraordinary to reading the summary, Mr Gray, to find that the programme was listed as scoring an A and an A in 2018-19, and that the risk was only medium. This does sound to me to be completely, out of kilter with the facts that we have heard today and that we've been hearing for many, many years. And of course, looking beyond Nigeria, given the deeply concerning news that we're hearing coming out from locations across Africa in recent weeks, what measures is the government taking to protect human rights across the continent and to tackle those responsible, whether those responsible for atrocities in Ethiopia or those who are involved in suppressing the democratic process in Tanzania and Uganda? We cannot have impunity for those taking out atrocities or war crimes, whatever their role or status, whether that's official, unofficial, official government sources, official military sources, or irregular forces who are acting on behalf of different groups, whether those are central governments, regional governments, rebel groups. It doesn't matter who they are. We cannot have impunity for those people who are carrying these out. And it appears to me a double irony, Mr Gray, that we are seeing support for wrong programmes like this when the government, we hear, is proposing cutting the right programmes, proposing cutting the 0.7% target, proposing cutting support to development and peace programmes across the world. And I hope the Minister will be able to perhaps reassure us that that is not going to happen. But Mr Gray, in conclusion, from the Black Lives Matter movement in the USA to the NSARS movement in Nigeria, it's clear that any democratic government must respond to the needs, first and foremost, of its citizens in providing policing and security that is accountable to the people that it serves, does not hold itself above the law, but defends the law and conducts itself in line with the principles and values that underpin it. We stand on the side of all of those in Nigeria who are calling for peace, for democracy and for the rule of law to be upheld. Killings must end, democracy and the rule of law must prevail, and the UK should be a partner to all Nigerians seeking peace, justice and development.
Wendy Morton.
Thank you, Mr Gray, and it's a pleasure to take part in this debate this afternoon under your excellent guidance and chairmanship, so thank you. Let me start by saying that I'm very grateful to my honourable friend, the member for Chipping Barnet, for securing this debate, and actually to all the members who have contributed today. We've heard from the member for Tonbridge and Marling, from Edmonton, Lewisham East, West Ham and others, and for all the contributions that you have made. I will endeavour to answer as many of your questions as I possibly can. I can't say within the time allowed because we're doing quite well on the time at the moment, I think, Mr Gray, but I know you will keep me in good order and not let me get carried away here. But this is an important debate, and the Minister for Africa has asked me to offer his apologies to those of you here in the House and as he is away on ministerial business and he's therefore not able to attend. But I do know he has a very close interest in this topic, and I feel sure that he will be following this debate with great attention, as we would expect of the Minister for Africa. So I will therefore respond on behalf of the government in his place. We are grateful to the nearly 220,000 members of the public who signed the petition and enabled this debate to take place. There is, quite rightly, significant public concern about the recent protests in Nigeria, especially the issue of police brutality. I also acknowledge the strong feeling about this issue in this place, and I am thankful for the contributions from all colleagues today. And as I said, I will try to respond to all of the points raised. But first, let me set out the government's position on the protests and on police reform, and then I will address the topic of sanctions. I would like to assure the House that the government is following developments in Nigeria since the protests very closely. We are deeply concerned by violence during the protests, which tragically claimed lives. And I'm sure honourable members here today will join me in passing on our condolences to the families of those affected. The UK supports the right to peaceful protest. We condemn violence by any party, and in doing so, make an important distinction between the rioting and looting that took place and the original peaceful protest movement. We have raised the protests and the response to them at the highest levels within the Nigerian government. The Foreign Secretary issued a statement on the 21st of October calling for an end to the violence. He called for the Nigerian government to urgently investigate reports of brutality by its security forces and to hold those responsible to account. The Minister for Africa spoke to Foreign Minister Onyema on the 23rd of October to reiterate his tweets that recognised the Nigerian people's democratic and peaceful calls for reform and encouraged the Nigerian authorities to restore peace and to address concerns over brutality towards civilians. The British High Commissioner in Abuja continues to raise the protests with senior representatives of the Nigerian government, including our concerns about intimidation of civil society groups and peaceful activists. We welcome President Buhari's decision to disband the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, the police unit at the centre of recent protests. And it's important that historic reports of police brutality and violence during recent protests are investigated fully. We also welcome the emerging dialogue between state governors and young people. In a country where more